Tensions are escalating with Iran after a series of disturbing military interactions in the Persian Gulf this week. The latest, an incident forcing U.S. ships to actually fire warning shots against an Iranian vessel that came dangerously close. This, of course, only after American destroyer was, quote, harassed in the Strait of Hormuz. Take a listen to what the White House had to say about all this earlier.
It's unclear exactly what their intentions were or what their aims might have been, but the behavior that we have seen is not acceptable. Primarily because this is already a volatile region of the world, and in a compressed space like the Strait of Hormuz, it only increases the risk associated with possible miscalculations.
Here to discuss Captain Nash, Chuck Nash, and Morgan Ortagus. Captain Nash, just listening to him. I grew up in Harlem, right? And a guy like that, we would bully. Listen, this guy's going to get beat up. He's going to have his lunch taken every single time. I mean, the Iranians look at this thing, and they're like, we already got these pipsqueak ships buzzing U.S. destroyers. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, a lot of lunch money down the drain there, Charles. The thing is, the Iranians have been doing this for quite some time. It's just now becoming more belligerent. But they have probably 1,000 of those kind of speedboats all along the Iranian coast. In little cutouts in the coastline, and they come out, and what they do is they call them swarm attacks, where they may be a lot of little pipsqueaks, but if they get closer than about 200 yards, now they're within range of rocket-propelled grenades, and that's where you got to draw the line. And flashing lights and horns and flares don't work. You got to pump a couple rounds into the water, because if they get inside. A fleet commander once told us when we were out in the Mediterranean in the mid-'80s dealing with the Libyans, they said if one of you guys shoots down one of them, it'll cause an international incident. If you allow one of them to shoot down one of you, you'll plunge our nation into war. Don't do it.
Wow. I know, Morgan. I saw, we just saw a couple of months ago where Turkey downed a Russian fighter jet. Yeah. You know what they said? You keep coming in our space. They took this bad boy down. Here we have these ships who are obviously taking this provocative action. I think Americans would be okay if we sank one of those things.
Well, listen, at this point with this administration, we've seen them go past the red line. We haven't seen them willing to stand up in any scenario with Iran, because they are so hell-bent on keeping this deal in place that they're not going to take any action. What I do think should happen, I mean, this is a power play for the Strait of Hormuz. This is a choke point. This is one of the most vital shipping lanes, and this is quite important to the region. So Iran
and to the world, because of the oil that goes through there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Iran is putting the flag down and saying this is ours. The Strait of Hormuz is ours. When you come through here, we're going to harass you if you want to. We own this. And keep in mind that these boats that are coming through are controlled by the intelligence services of Iran. So this isn't just the classic Iran Navy, right? This is the Iranian intel. These are the hardliners. So the hardliners control the intel forces of the Iranian government. So this is the hardliners saying to us, America, we're going to do what we want to do to you. We're going to control the Strait of Hormuz. And that's the message that they're sending to the broader Middle East. So that begs the question, what should happen? If I were running this administration, I would say to the Secretary of State or to the Secretary of Defense, you need to call your counterparts in Iran and say, knock it off. There's going to be consequences.
And if nothing changes after that?
Well, this administration has shown that they're not willing to do it because they want to keep this Iran deal no matter what. But if nothing happens after that, then we have to be prepared to take force against those boats. The worst case scenario is that we have another Syrian red line. So we can't call the Secretary of Defense in Iran and say, don't do this if we're not willing to back it up. But we should, by the way. We shouldn't let this happen.
And on that note, Captain Nash, I mean, what is going to ultimately happen? Because it does, it's gotten progressively worse, and it's on full display for the world to see.
Well, Charles, rules of engagement are normally at the secret level, and we're not going to know at what range our guys will open fire. But if the Iranians miscalculate and blow it, and don't have their ducks in a row and close inside that range, either intentionally or accidentally, they're going to come under fire. And at that point, everybody's going to step, probably is going to step back and go, okay, now what are we doing here? Because if they do that, we can't just pump a couple rounds out there and do it. The last time the Iranian Navy came out belligerently, it was called Praying Mantis, and we sank about half of their Navy in 3 days. So They better be really careful about this. And one thing to keep in mind is this calculus is going to change a lot once they get their nukes.
All right, guys. Thank you both very, very much.